Welcome back to House Guest with me, Hailey Fennel. I'm a psychic medium, and this is the podcast that connects you to the other side. Today, I'm with Kaitlyn Dingle. Hi, Kaitlyn. Welcome.
Hey.
Okay, so full disclosure for everyone that's listening to the podcast, Kaitlyn is one of my friends. We have the same one of our circle of friends is the same, I'm going to say, because I know like we all have friends from many different avenues of life. But I was lucky enough to meet Kaitlyn quite a few years ago. I think it was maybe right after I had Rowdy and was just starting to get into stuff like this. So she's kind of seen the journey grow. I've also seen Kaitlyn do some pretty amazing and new things with her life, and I'm excited to get into that after the reading. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give Kaitlyn a little mini reading, and then sometimes there's people that listen to this podcast that are trying to do the same thing that I'm doing. This is how I started years ago. As I asked my really good family and friends if I could give them a reading, and Kaitlyn, I think you were one of those people.
I
Is
was.
that right? And I actually, from what I remember, it was one of the readings that I think I got really nervous because that happens when we're just starting something new. And I don't think it actually went all that well. I don't know
I
if you
don't
remember or
I
not.
don't think we connected to I have a lot of dead people in my life, but I don't think there was some dude that didn't make I don't know. Yeah, I don't it was nothing you are wonderful, but
All right,
I
you're
don't
sweet.
remember there being some like connection.
Yeah, but I think, yeah. I remember that too. I remember like kind of leaving the reading and being like, oh my gosh, like I didn't get it. There's something tricky that happens. So this is how I'm gonna do it. This is how I'm gonna explain it. Is there's something tricky that happens when you know the person that you're sitting with, because you do kind of like a mind fuck with yourself where you're like, oh, I just know that about them, so I'm not gonna say that. And then it can break the connection. So I think it's important, like for anyone that's first starting off, it's okay to like know something, like you're in your comfort zone. You've asked your family and friends to come support you so that you could try this new thing. So it's okay that you know things about them. And for that to kind of be the catalyst that leads into the conversation that then leads to like the connection in the reading. At some point I started telling family and friends that I couldn't read for them anymore. I was like, I can't. Like it's going to sound odd to anyone that's first starting off. It's so much easier to read for strangers, for people that you just don't know, because you don't have any of those thoughts that get into your head that are like, I already know that about them. I can't bring that up. You really just are like trusting that whatever comes into your head is something that's meant to come up in a reading. With family and friends, sometimes things come into your head that you already know about that are also meant to come up in a reading. If I ever do read for really good family and friends, it's for free because it's like, it's tricky. It's just trickier. And I also tell that, or I just say like I can't, and I'll send them to somebody else that I think is, and anyone is any of my family and friends listening right now, I will give you that list. I've got some great people that I love to send people to. But I am going to try for you, Kaitlyn. I'm going to try to
Okay.
read for you, but I'm going to be much more loosey goosey about it and just be like, hey, like I already know this about you. I do have an idea of who could come through in the reading. Kaitlyn and I have not known each other since childhood, so there's things that could come up that I quite possibly don't know about, and I'm just going to go with it. You're welcome to say it doesn't resonate at all, and Hailey, you suck. And this reading is not
Never.
gonna know. Caitlin would never. She's the sweetest. But I'm gonna try. I'm gonna see what comes, and then anyone that's listening in, they can just listen in to like what it's like to give a reading to to a really good like family or friend, and I just hope that that helps anybody that's listening to the podcast that's trying to do something big, bold, brave themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, let's
Do
do
you have
it.
any questions for me before we start?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna scoot in just a little bit closer for the mic. That's for Lindsay. You're welcome, Lindsay. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna close my eyes. And you can close your eyes too if you want, but you can also leave them open if that feels better. And just start taking a few really good deep breaths. And just imagine a bridge between the two of us. And it's a really strong, sturdy, stable bridge. And instead of walking across that bridge, just imagine it getting closer and closer. Imagine our souls meeting. Imagine our guides meeting. Imagine anyone who has passed away and is on the other side coming forward. Imagine that they have the loving and supportive messages for you today, here and now, that they see, hear, and know you. They know what's going on in your life right now, and that they have the messages you need to see, hear, and know today. And then just take a few more really good deep breaths. Imagine that bridge getting so small and so short that it completely disappears between the two of us. And you can open your eyes. I'm going to open mine too. I'm going to write down like a few things. Okay, lovely. Good. Okay, so Kaitlyn, I know that you have a sister who's passed away quite a few years ago. So like just like in general, feel that presence coming in. And then I also feel someone that kind of like comes kind of directly over my shoulder and into my heart. I would usually interpret that as a grandparent that's on the other side, on dad's side. It kind of feels a little bit like dad's dad. Does that make sense to you?
Well, his dad and his mother are deceased. So, but I did not know my grandfather. He died like a month before I was born.
Oh, okay, that's okay. I'm sorry to hear that. Write down dad's dad. Okay.
But Mamaw is his mom, who I do know well.
I love that. And sometimes, and people have probably heard me say this on the podcast before, like I think she's going to come in too, but sometimes we get these people that we didn't know from life that come in. Sometimes they come first, just sometimes, because they have something like kind of quick to say and we would like miss them otherwise. Like, because we don't know all that much about them, or we do know a good bit about them, but we haven't had all that much personal experience with them. Sometimes they just come first. But I do feel sister here too. I'm going to write that down. Okay, lovely. Good. Okay. And he kind of comes in. So he, as in grandfather, they're a little bit laughing at this, the part where in the very beginning where you're like, well, there's this weird guy or a random guy that came through. I feel like everyone, as I was closing my eyes and doing that breathing exercise, they're all really giggling at that. I'm going to get into that. Okay. Dad's dad. Lovely. He's like, I'm coming in first. He's like, I'm going to have to come in front of grandma or else she's going to take it away, is how he puts it. Like, she could kind of have a lot to say in this reading. But he's like, I'm just going to come in. He comes in quite gently. He says, hi.
I
He understands that he's quite well remembered. It's kind of just like basic information. Okay, lovely, good. I'm just gonna be quiet for a little bit. Okay, lovely. And he's like, and I'm happy to be with partner now, though. Like happy to be with grandmother. He's like, I don't know why my computer does that sometimes. That's the balloons just went up again. It happens on the podcast all the time. When we're on this program. But it's a little bit of like a, hey, like I'm celebrating being together with grandma. He calls it a happy union. He puts like, he keeps putting like a picture frame right in front of me of the two of them together. Like it kind of feels like, here's a picture of me, here's a picture of her. It's just how he puts it. Does that make sense to you?
maybe.
That's okay. I'm just gonna put it out there. He puts two separate frames. Okay. Okay. And then he calls himself quite smart and astute. He's like, I'm very smart. I'm very astute. I haven't, like, that's not a normal word that's in my normal vernacular. But that is kind of what he calls himself. And then he kind of looks at you. He's like, Kaitlyn and that's us. Okay. And he's
Oh,
and he's like, he gets excited when the way that like I know you, because I know that you're a lawyer, that has like a certain feeling to it, right? Like I know that you're smart. Like I get that. And just from knowing you in general, you could have any job in the world and I would know that. But he gets kind of like proud of I think your job and everything that he gets kind of proud in his shoulders. And he keeps, I know you're seeing me do it. He keeps going like this, like, who, me? Like, look at Kaitlyn. Like he's proud of himself. He's proud of you. And
aw.
he gets like excited that that's like a part of your story and kind of not that he passed it down to you, but he kind of feels like in life, should he still be here, he'd be like, that's my granddaughter. That's her, and gets very proud of you. And is excited to see you do that. And he doesn't come in right now for that much more other than just saying like, congratulations and I love you and I want to let you know that I'm here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then he And I know we're going to do this quickly. Lovely. Good. Good, good, good. He kind of opens the door to grandmother and sister at the same time. And so like, well, like either of them could go. And it's a little bit like they're both talking at the same time. And that sounds a bit absurd. That's okay. But they are. It's like they both come in and they both want to tell you, like, hi, Kaitlyn. Like, I love you. I love you. I love you. We're both here. They want to show you like a lot of support and they kind of just circle around you. Like, hey, like I'm over here on this side and I'm over here on this side. And I want to make sure that you feel like that equal support from sister and from grandmother, as though knowing that they were both quite important to you in your life. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a preference for who I talk with first?
My sister.
Okay. I'm glad I asked. Perfect. Good. And there's no hard feelings on the other side. It's just that I felt them so equally that I'm kind of like, I'm going to ask one to kind of back off and they're fine with that. Okay, good, good, good. She's like, I could mirror some of grandfather's words. Like, I'm just so proud of you, Kaitlyn. She's like, I love you. I know this about you. Like, I know that the past few years have been a bit of a mental struggle. Is it okay to say that?
Yes.
Okay. So I do know that about you. So I'm going to go ahead and say that. She brings it up and she's like, I'm so proud of like the steps that you have taken to get to where you are now and the steps that you're going to continue to take to make sure that you're okay. And she goes, and things are going to get better, 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 better. And she's like, I know it's really, really hard to see that, but the doors are opening. She's like, you could even visualize that yourself. And like, even if you don't quite feel it yet, there's like a knowing of like the doors are opening, the path is clearing, things are getting better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does.
Yeah, and she's so proud of you. Okay, good, good, good. So of course, she says proud of her girls. Okay. All right, lovely. Hold on. She gets kind of giddy when I mention her girls. Lovely, good, good, good. And she goes, and can you see this, Kaitlyn, or do you understand this? That's how I'm going to ask it. Do you understand this? Do you understand? She says something along the lines of, and now they're starting to take care of themselves. Like they're getting the care that they need from themselves. There's something like that. And she's like proud of it. She's like, they're doing the things that they need to do in life to kind of get the ball rolling for themselves. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. And she's like, it's such a good thing. They're getting the ball rolling for themselves. She feels a lot of people around them that care for them, but then she feels really proud of them for knowing what's best for them themselves. Like, because sometimes we have people in our life that love us so much that care for us from a bunch of different avenues. And sometimes they think what's best for them is something that they would do for themselves. And she's like, but she sees them doing more what's best like from their own intuition. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, especially Lily, who's like 20, is probably more mature than me at the age of 30, like 36. So she's been independent for a long time, and it's funny that you talk about like being surrounded because Mary Ross, who's 17, just moved in with my mom and dad, and she's here now.
Oh, okay, good. Good, good, good. Yeah. And it's like, it's just a little bit of that feeling of like, it's kind of like, okay, I love it. I'm gonna put it that way. She started talking really fast. She's like, and Kaitlyn, like this reading is for you. And she's saying, like she wants to let you know that like, even though, like even like grandparents, right, can have like a different way of thinking of what's like best for kids, or even parents can think that they know what's best for kids. And then there's our own soul who can like really tap into, should we give it the time and space to be like, oh, but here's this other thing that I actually think is what's best for me. She sees that in her girls and them being so strong with that. And she's just so proud of them listening to their own intuition for what's best for them. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay, good, good, good. Do you have any questions around that?
No.
Okay.
I feel like I would be talking too much about like their lives to like
Uh
ask
huh.
her.
That's fair. Yeah,
They
yeah,
may
yeah.
not appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I love it. That's perfect. I think that's why she kind of leaves it like open ended and knowing, of course, that this is being recorded and all good and just a lot of love there. A lot of love. Okay. Good, good, good. Okay. Okay, fine. All right, hold on. Okay, so Caitlin, I know that you own a law firm. This part I don't know about you, though. And I'm just going to go ahead and be bold enough to ask because there's a part of me because I know you that I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's different. Like, I don't know that about her. And then I start to hold back, like, well, should I say that? Is that something that like I should say? But I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm just going to try to find the right words with how she wants to say it too. All right. I don't know how I'm not a
Just
lawyer. So I
just
don't know.
ask it.
Well, I don't know what this would mean in lawyer world.
Okay.
But they're like opening up the new firm or another firm. They're like, where's the like the opening up of another firm? Does that make sense to you?
Oh, yeah, it does.
Okay, good. Um, so she's like, I'm going to back that, is how she puts it. And she kind of gets funny about it. So imagine your sister kind of putting on like a lawyer's suit and she
Oh
kind of
my
gets all
God.
serious and she's like, can you believe it? Like, I'm going to back that idea up and we're going to make sure that it goes through and it happens. And she calls it being, she's like, it's a big choice and it's a growth choice. I can kind of understand that. Lovely, good. And then she's like, and it's one of the best choices that you can make right now. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. And she's like, the busier Caitlin is, the better things are. So that's a lot.
Fair.
Um, so she's like, she calls it like, let's get busy. Let's get down to business is how like want to say it because that's a saying, but she calls it more along the lines of let's get busy. And she gets very excited about it.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, good. And does that feel good to you if I was like, hey, you're supposed to open up a firm this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you ask because, like, well, and it's interesting because I've got like two different processes going for how, like, I've wanted to grow my firm, right? Like, I really wanted to feel stable and now move into growth. And I'm like toying with the idea of like how to get into like the North Carolina market, but I also have been like heavily looking into how to educate myself to add like estate planning to my practice because I'm just
Oh,
real estate right now.
uh-huh.
So I wonder if she means both or because she says new place, it makes me feel like something about like the North Carolina bit. So
Yeah. When you tap into kind of like your own intuition, and I know that you're like a highly intuitive person yourself, do you have like a feeling about one or the other, or is it a little bit equal? Like
I
I
think it's
could
a
do
little
both.
bit both, but I
Yeah.
think I feel the North Carolina thing, and it's also really interesting because like we also like all of a sudden like we go to the Highlands a lot, and like I have wanted to like have a house there for a long time. I grew up on a mountain, like so I missed that, and it's just like and all of a sudden Tommy's like very invested in looking at real estate, like in the last like 5 days since we were just there this
Ooh.
weekend. Like he's like, I'm gonna form an LLC. Let's go ahead and get like pre-approval for like. So that also feels like I was like, what the? Where did this come from? Like, why are you like down to business? Well, all of a sudden.
I mean, I love it. Sometimes, like when we put energy into things that we want for ourselves, our partners tend to pick up on it, like in their own way, and add to it in the ways that like they're meant to contribute. So I love that. Like, I like that you guys are like kind of playing with that universal energy and that you're picking up on each other's kind of wants on a soul level. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm going to say I think it could very well be both too. Like I think both of
Oh,
those
for sure.
ideas. Yeah, sometimes when we're given especially something so specific like that and it like you got really specific with it, like it's not just like, "Oh, like I think I need to add a part of some this to my business." Like I want to add estate planning to my business. And that's incredibly specific and sometimes we're given those ideas because it's like a soul's purpose thing or I want to open up another part of the practice and you got very specific, North Carolina. Like it wasn't just another place near Charleston. It was like, to me, I'm like, that speaks more volume to your intuition than anything else. And the trick is to just follow through when and where you can. The actions don't have to be huge, but even just Tommy hopping on and looking at real estate, done. That's an action right there. Like, and it just gets the ball rolling and things line up in an easier way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Not that there won't be challenges along the way, because that's just human
Oh,
life,
yeah.
but that's also a part of the fun. Okay. Okay. Do you have any other questions for your sister?
I mean, like 1,000, but
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing, nothing really specific.
Okay. I'm just going to close my eyes then for a little bit. She's like, I love you. I love you. I love you. She just says in, and she says your, that's fine. In your, but she means her honor. Like as though it's something you would say, like in your honor. Like doing something in her honor. Doing it in her honor. Okay. Hold on. And she goes, there's this little ritual that Kaitlyn does. Like, I think it's like almost every year. And she keeps putting something like quite small in my hands, like almost like I could hold it like this, like pinch it and hold it. And she's like, there's this little something that Kaitlyn does in my honor. Does that make sense to you?
Well, immediately when she says something little, like I have like this table that I at my office, and it looks like an apothecary table, but it's actually like an old where they keep used to keep letters for like a printing press. And I put like rocks in it and stones from all these places. But I don't know, like, what is she talking about?
I love that. I mean, I love what you just described. That sounds cool. She keeps pinching it as though I could like pick up like oh, I know they're not. Oh, like the clover weeds. I think they turn into clovers. And like as little kids, maybe we would like weave them around our heads. But she keeps picking up like a small flower or something like that. And it's like the little thing in my honor. Does the apothecary table remind you of her though? Like, is that for her?
No.
Okay. Perfect. I think it's more something in her honor. Like and it but I like that
I do,
nostalgic
I
idea.
mean, like I do like plant flowers, and I think like I plant seeds, and like I think of her and like Khaleesi and my mother-in-law,
Yeah.
but I don't know what she's talking about.
That's okay. Just keep it in mind. I'm going to show you the action
Okay.
again. It's like she picks, for some reason, it's in both hands too. She picks it up. It, to me, kind of feels like a stem of some sort or something similar that would feel almost like a stem. And she pinches one in one hand and one in the other. And she's like, oh, there's this like little simple thing that Caitlin does to honor me.
Okay, I'm gonna
And
have to
it kind
think
of
about it.
she's like about once a year, and she puts it very lightly like that. But yeah, just think about it. You don't have to come up with it right now. Sometimes when you think of it later, it will be that much more meaningful. So it's less about me knowing exactly what that thing is and more about it hitting you at the right time in the right moment. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you have any other questions for me?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I'd love to turn it over to you and hear a little
Okay.
bit more about, like, I know a little bit. We're both busy women, and so it's been like a while since we've truly caught up, but I love when every once in a while we get to run into each other. So I know a little bit about your story, but if you're comfortable sharing about how you battled depression and the things
Hmm.
that you did to help yourself, I think as a community, we'd love to hear it because there's a lot of people that listen to the podcast that are also looking for some help. I also have a resources page on my website, and I'll try to add anything that Caitlin mentions on there. And then, of course, we'd love to hear about your work and what you do.
Yeah. Um, so I think I went to like a psychiatrist or a therapist for the first time after my freshman year of college. It was like a lot going on, and I knew something didn't feel right, and my parents were worried about me. And that kind of started, like, we could go way back, but that started my journey into mental health and really identifying that something could be wrong. I went, we finally settled on the fact that I just have like general anxiety disorder. And I feel like you hear a lot of people toss around the word anxiety a lot. And we all do it. And I don't mean to say that like everybody can't feel anxiety, but like to experience like the chemical instability that I have is can be debilitating. And so it's been an on and off thing. I've been on medication. I've had moments where it's like a lot harder than others and troubling times. But last year in March, it was genuinely like someone took a light switch and flipped it, and all the
Mm-hmm.
lights went off. And I lost it. I lost myself. The anxiety was very much like like I was waiting for something awful to happen, and it's probably because I've had a lot of awful things happen. Like as we mentioned, like I lost my sister in 2016, and that was after like watching her struggle with her addiction for like 5 to 6 years and the turmoil that creates. We had some like other family stuff go on, and um, Tommy and I got married, which was happy, but also a lot during that time. And then he and I bought a home and it caught on fire in
Yeah.
2020. And then we experienced COVID, and then we took over our law firm. And then my like soul dog Khaleesi died like in a very awful, sudden, tragic way. Um, and that was at the end of 2022. And then we had like this giant plumbing emergency. It was just like, my point is, it was one thing after the other, and it was all building up, and I already had all of this weighing on my shoulders. And I think like our firm actually started to experience a financially hard time, and I just lost it. And
Hmm.
the anxiety was so bad waiting for the other shoe to drop that it gave me depression. And I had had depression, but never to the point where it was like I didn't see the point anymore. Like I would like look at everybody else and look at the day, and I was like, why am I here? Like, why am I doing this? Like, am I just gonna like get up every day and like go to work, and then like it, none of it made sense, right? And
Hmm.
everything seemed really, really hard. And I just wanted to quit everything and run away. And I knew that my brain was lying to me, but it was hard not to listen to it. And I had a psychiatrist, I had a therapist, but like nothing was working. And I was like
Yeah.
running out of options. And I did end up like checking myself into the mental hospital. Super great time. Not really. And I laugh about it. Like it was awful to have to do that to yourself. Like to get that far, like is fucking awful. Like
And
just
like, but the bravery that you did that for yourself, like I can only imagine that moment of being like, I've got to do this for myself. And
yeah. And I mean, Tommy was proud of me, and I'm so glad those places exist, right? Because it's
Mhm.
meant to keep people from hurting themselves. And I didn't really experience suicidal ideation. Like it would have been fine if I never woke up again. But I'm also like simultaneously terrified of death.
Mhm.
So I was terrified to die, but just knew I was going to die because I felt so awful. But something about going there, even though it didn't fix me, it like kickstarted something. And after like begging and like spending a lot of time in insurance, I finally got into MUSC Center Space, which is their alternative mental health. And that is specifically for ketamine.
Mhm.
I do not do straight ketamine injections. I do Spravato, which is the FDA approved version of ketamine. It's a nasal spray. Um, and I'd heard stories where it worked like after one time, and I was so hopeful that that was going to be me. It did not. I would say it took about like 6 times to really notice a difference. But the interesting part about ketamine and what you do too is like, a lot of people have this outer body experience where they feel like disconnected from themselves. And Spravato was meant to not make you have such a trip as much as like straight ketamine does. Um, but I still experienced it sometimes, and almost it was almost harder at first because like a lot of the things were surfacing that I didn't want to deal with, and that happens to a lot of people in ketamine. Like they have buried and buried and buried, and like that stuff comes up, and it's really painful when it's coming up, but then it's like you finally set it down, right?
Mhm.
Um, the doctors there are incredible. They're just, it's not the same old schlep of, like this works and this doesn't. Like they're open to new ideas, which is what we need. Um, I am obsessed with Dr. Jones there. She is incredible. MUSC is supposed to be putting out a video like where she talks, and it's like my testimony about the treatment. So if you're interested, that would be something cool. But more than anything, like beyond the ketamine treatment, they gave me hope there. Like she was like, if this doesn't work, we'll find something else. Because it's very easy to run out of hope. And I was running out of hope. And everybody that loved me kept telling me like, it's going to get better. And I was like, you don't know that. There's no way it can
Yeah.
get better. Like, you don't know that. Like, I, so it's crazy to me to think about it now. Like this time last year, I remember on Halloween, I was getting an MRI to literally make sure that there was not something like in my brain. And
Hmm.
like now here I am talking about maybe like expanding my law firm, right?
Yeah.
And this is a business I genuinely wanted to shut down and never talk about again last year.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and
I mean,
I like love that part of the story. Like, I think it's so much, it takes so much to just keep going without totally knowing that it's going to be okay on the other end. It's like,
I mean,
but you don't. And then, like, I just want to, like, I'm so incredibly proud of you for getting to that point and being such a good example of, like, hey, like, you are meant to keep going
you
because
just,
there's a
yeah.
way out of it and things like do get better. As hard as that is to hear, like it's totally possible. Yeah.
And I know everybody's different, right? Like, and the thing about depression is it makes you not want to do the things that you need to do to get better. Like, and I get
Hmm.
that. I remember waking up and being like, I can't lay here anymore because I'm going to come out of my body, but I also have no motivation to get up. And there were days where like family, like my dad, I remember him like physically pulling me out of bed. I remember my mom like putting me in the bathtub, like, and I remember like after I got out of the hospital, I was like, I've got to do something. And so I would just like get up and put AirPods in and walk for like
Yeah.
4 hours. And I would sit at the coffee shop so I could be around people, but like didn't have to, but like every day. And I would like that walking, it was literally just almost the mental idea of one foot in front of the other. Like
Hmm.
it was impossible, but like you just, I don't know. And I like, I'm out of it now, like, and I'm in a good place. And it's not like, oh, I'm good, like, fine, move on with my life. Like, I'm in maintenance treatments. Like, I'm constantly working on setting boundaries to make sure that, like, I never get to that place again. And of course, there's like that anticipatory anxiety, like, what if it happens again? Like,
Hmm.
but I have to kind of try to, like, tell myself, but, like, you have more tools now, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. How
So.
did you find MUSC? Like how are you led there and maybe even like anyone that's listening that feels like this might be helpful for them, how can they find that?
So I I mean, I've been in the mental health world for so long. Like, I always am hearing about I'm interested in it. I did have a psychiatrist at the time who she kind of wasn't, she was like, I don't really know what else to try. Like, you can look at MUSC Center Space Clinic. And I called, but they were like so understaffed and new that it took me a while to get in.
Hmm.
They are like, they're rocking and rolling a lot more now. But they're affiliated with MUSC, but it's not at the hospital. So it's just like a clinic you go in. It's actually over in West Ashley off Tobias Gadsden Boulevard. And you do an evaluation with one of the doctors to determine if it would be a good fit for you, right? Because it doesn't always work for everyone. And you have to decide whether you want to do Spravato, which is the nasal spray, which is what I do. But they also do intermuscular ketamine injections. But when you do that, you also get it's ketamine assisted therapy. So when you're getting the injections, you're getting therapy, which I think is super cool. And I loved the idea of doing that, but that's not covered by insurance. The nasal spray was. And because I'm such an anxious person, I was worried, like, we were kind of worried the injections would be too much for me. And then I just freak out even more. I would feel totally comfortable doing it now, but,
Yeah. Yeah, at the time you were making the best decision that you could for yourself. Yeah.
and that was hard because then I felt like I couldn't make decisions. I was like, well, what if it's worse? Well, like, um,
No, that's
so
okay.
I toured somewhere else, but like I felt like that was such a big step to do something new that somehow it felt safer that it was connected to MUSC. And I am really happy that I did it there because Dr. Jones and Dr. Malcolm are both board certified psychiatrists. They've brought on a new doctor, and like Dr. Malcolm and I don't know the new doctor's name, but they also are both, I think, like certified in internal medicine. So like they're very
Yeah.
well equipped. They know their stuff, but like they also are so open minded. And it was actually Dr. Jones, who's my female doctor, who kind of got me started at looking at a new antidepressant, like brand new to the market, like a couple of years ago, that I also think was super fundamental in helping me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that this is like a part of an interesting conversation maybe to have in this arguably more woo world or spiritual world where I think that I don't yeah, I'm just going to say it. I think that maybe there's like a misunderstanding between occasionally I'll have someone that comes in that like wants to heal just through getting a psychic reading. And I always like to remind people that there's a huge difference between a psychic medium and a therapist. By no means am I a certified therapist, psychologist, psychotherapist. I am just a psychic medium. It can feel therapeutic, but it is not therapy. And I 100% advocate and recommend therapy and then the medication or prescriptions that people need from there. I also think that things like Reiki, there's like certain movements, and then there's meditations, and then there's psychic mediumship. There's like that whole world that can feel supportive and helpful and could be like one of the tools in someone's toolbox.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's like, it's so important to point out that none of that is therapy. And sometimes we have to like be brave enough to take those steps to really truly feel better.
Yeah, and I mean,
I don't know if you want to say anything on that,
and
but
I'm in this world, right? And I think that's what was so frustrating is like I knew all the things to be doing, right, to take care of myself, and it still happened. But like, yeah, acupuncture actually was a really big part of my healing journey. Acupuncture's helped me like with migraines previously, and I feel that it helps me. Like I love Reiki. Exercise has been, I mean, you and I go to the works together, and
yeah.
like when I start to feel off, like if I go to class, I feel better. And it's the movement, but it's also like for me being around other people, it helps so much. And it also like just like when I would sit at the coffee shop, it helped me realize like the world is still moving. But
Yeah.
but I can see like, and I've thought a lot, right, about like coming back for like I've had readings before, but coming back to it because I still think something that I like that medicine's not going to fix is like my I have a deep seated fear about what's next. Like where are the people I love
Hmm.
and what happens to me? Like, and I'm such a skeptic but also a believer at the same time. Like, right, I wish like Harry Potter was like actually happening around us. Like I love magic
Me too.
and I want all of that to be real, but then my lawyer brain is like mm, mm. So
Yeah. 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 I think that's like normal and natural, right? Like we're meant to kind of be in this world and be like everything's magical or I'm just going to be super skeptical and like that it ebbs and flows all the time even for me. Clear I have like a pretty solid understanding of what it's not what it's like to be on the other side, but what it could be like is how I'm gonna say. But I also like completely think that I'm not supposed to know at the same time. Like I'm not supposed to I think anyone, like as humans, like we are not given that divine intelligence until we're there. And it's just a part of like, okay, so what can I worry about today, here and now, rather than something that's gonna happen in the future. I also, that is not to like totally change topics, but you mentioned this a bit ago. Kaitlyn and I do get to see each other at the works, and that is like one of the tools that I am constantly using to make sure that like my headspace is in the right spot. Not just to like do what I do, though like it is a huge part of psychic mediumship for me. It's how I work. I'm like I have to move my body, and I just feel more connected in my readings. If I can't make it for that day for whatever reason, it's okay. I like know that more days than not, I've got that in my set of tools, and it's something that I feel like maintains my mental health. Do you feel the same way? Do you feel like there's like a component to movement for you that helps you with your mentality, or is it like I don't know. For me, that's one of my biggest ones. So I think I'm just curious to hear what your thoughts are on
yeah,
that.
and what's funny is like, so I didn't grow up athletic, right? Like, I like hate group sports. Like, I feel like I'm a clumsy person. I was a dancer, so I'll give you that. But like, working out was not something I was really interested in. and
Mhm.
it was like a chore until I got into yoga, like my third year of law school. Actually, Tommy was the one that kind of like pushed me in it, which is hilarious. Um,
I
and
love
I've
that.
had journeys right from like what movement is feeling best right now. But I think I'm in a really good routine, and I like that, like, because we both go to like to spin, and then we both go to the yoga studio, movement studio. Like I was saying, like I can tell, like it's almost like I can feel like if anxiety was like a little tiny person in my brain, and he's like coming in, I'm like, oh, like gotta go, right? Like
Gotta
so,
go.
like
Yeah.
I'm like just going and even being there, like because even when I was sick, like I my ass could not move my legs on that bike, right? So I would
Mhm.
just like sit in the dark and slow pedal and like honestly cry, talk to myself, but like I was there and I was with other people and I was still moving through it. But yeah, no, I can tell when I haven't exercised. Um, and it's like a shift. Like you can like I was so tired when I went this morning. And then after class, like Bonnie's like, you feel better, don't you? And I was like, yeah, duh. Like
Yeah.
it's like medicine too.
Yeah.
Like, and if I don't take it, I can tell. Just like if I didn't take one of my pills,
Yeah.
I can tell.
Yeah. It's like that. I feel like I'm not in this space anymore, but it could come up again. But I've definitely been in a space where I'm like, well, I'm too tired to work out, or I don't have enough energy to go to class, and then I like challenged myself. I mean, it wasn't really all that long ago, maybe like a year and a half ago. I was like, no, like I do feel better. It's like my future me is going to thank me for going idea. And sometimes I think we stop ourselves, workouts, whatever, but we stop ourselves short of something that we know is going to be helpful on the other end of it. And I don't know. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say other than just a little reminder for anyone listening that like, hey, like if you're not moving your body and you're capable. I know that there's some people listening that might not be capable at this moment, but just to do like a little bit of something for yourself that is a challenge, like, and is going to kind of get you out of your head and back into your body. They say that at the works a lot, can just be so helpful. And like, it might not be the most helpful thing the very first time you do it, but it's like the practice of going and learning that you can get through it and that it's going to feel good can be so helpful to life in general, especially for people who are struggling with depression. I've been there too. And it's like to learn that you can get through it and that there's something so much greater on the other side. So yeah, that's something that like I go back to often when I'm not feeling like I do it all the time now because I know that if I don't, like I don't get into the best spots mentally. But sometimes I'll like really go into it with the intention of like, hey, I'm mentally not feeling great today. I'm gonna like come out of this thing feeling better.
I think what you're trying to say is like I hear you. There's like a fine line between the idea of like listening to your body, right? And respecting like,
Hmm.
hey, I feel tired, so like that
Yeah.
means I should just stay home. But there's a fine line between listening to your body and then like making excuses for yourself. And
Yeah. Yeah. You said it perfectly.
I
Yeah.
think and something else I discovered and that someone else had to tell me was like, Caitlin, I think healing is sometimes on the other side of the things you're unwilling to look at, right? So I had to
Yeah.
make myself do things I didn't want to do, and that's okay. Like I did not want to get up and go walk. You got to make yourself do things you don't want to do. Like don't hurt yourself,
Yeah.
but like you might not want it, but like you keep doing it. And like I remember a therapist telling me when you're walking, you're actually telling like that amygdala, like reptile part of your brain that like, hey, I'm okay. Like there's not a bear chasing me, right? Like even if
Yeah.
you can't feel it, that movement is doing something for you. Like it is.
Yeah. Yeah, you said it. I mean that. Yeah, I couldn't say it better. Clearly, um, that's it. That's it. Like right there. It's like you are gonna sometimes like work through the uncomfort to do the things that like are gonna end up being good for you. And if anybody, I'm going to add the MUSC Center Space Clinic to my resources tab on my website, but we'll also tag it in the show notes for this podcast. Is there anything else that you want to tag around that? And then we'd love to hear about your law firm and your
Yeah.
business.
Medicine is just half, like therapy is really important. Um, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like, one more thing they told me, like, at Center Space, they were like, it's really important that you have a psychiatrist and, like, you're trying other things. Like, ketamine is kind of like the cherry on top, right? Or,
Hmm.
like, I don't think that's the thing. Like, you're like, oh, I'm starting to, I'm going to go straight to ketamine. No, like, maybe you want, like, a base plan first.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, there's a lot to say, but, and I'll give you the link to that. But I have a psychiatrist as well, independently of them, and a therapist I see weekly. So
Yeah. And I love that context. I think that's great for everyone to know as
yeah.
well. Thank you.
But as far as my business, I've mentioned it, but my husband and I own a real estate law firm together. So we actually took it over from our predecessor on April 1st, Fool's Day of 2020, which was right after our house caught on fire in the middle of COVID. So it was a lot.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot. And but I think we got a pretty good thing going. So we do real estate closings. So anytime you buy a house, sell a house, refinance, get a line of credit. This applies to like commercial real estate as well. Like, we're your people. You come and you close with me. As I mentioned, I am trying to like branch out into some other things just because we know that real estate is funky and it ebbs and flows, and people will always need a good estate plan. And that's something I was interested in and have practiced in before. So we do that. And as part of owning a real estate law firm, you also have to own a title agency, which I manage. And then Tommy and I also own our duplex. We own a duplex and we Airbnb the unit right next door, which is a pet friendly
Yeah.
Airbnb in Mount Pleasant, right up from Shem Creek.
I know you. So it's Styles and Dingle Law
Yes,
Firm.
Stiles and Dingle Law
Um,
Firm. It's my husband and I are the attorneys, and we have two full-time paralegals. We are in North Charleston. It is very central. People are like, I don't want to drive there. It takes me like 20 minutes from my house in Mount Pleasant.
it's really easy to get to North Charleston now
Yeah.
too. Like
So it's meant to be like
it's
in the
easier than people
center
think.
of
Yeah.
everything because we have like a lot of Somerville clientele. Um, but like, because I live in Mount Pleasant, I do have a spot where I do Mount Pleasant closings if necessary. And we have a website, stylesanddingle.com. My phone number is 843-553-3350. Email is always the best way to reach me though. And it's my first name, Kaitlyn at styleslaw.com. And you can put that in the notes.
So yeah, we'll put it in the notes in case anyone is just listening. It's
Yes.
Kaitlyn. Um, thank you,
Yeah, thank
Caitlin.
you so much. It
Love
was really
that.
fun.
Wait, and what's your Air? How can people find your Airbnb?
Oh, shoot. We do have it's our Instagram is Stay Here Charleston, and the link to and
Okay.
like the Airbnb link listing is on that.
Okay, perfect. We'll tag that. That's
Okay.
perfect. Caitlin, thank you so much. I just always love talking with you, first of all, and I love when we get to run into each other. And thank you for being game for the podcast. This has kind of been a long time in the making.
You
Um,
forgot to mention that we're
and
birthday twins.
oh, that's right, guys. We're both Scorpios. It's coming up November 20th. That the first time I'm going to tell that story. The first time Caitlin and I met, we met through some mutual friends, and we were out. Oh, I forget the restaurant's
It's
name
like
in
Mill
Mount
Street
Pleasant.
Tavern on the water.
Okay, good. And then so we were out on the rooftop, and somehow, of course, the conversation very naturally turned to astrology. And Caitlin and I found out. I think the wait person came over and maybe like asked for your birthday. It was something weird. I was
Oh
like,
no.
that's my birthday. I don't know, something weird, but we both, oh no, we found out it was both of our birthdays are November 20th, and we screamed, which is like not like me, but we were like,
What?
what? And the wait person was right there and we scared them.
Oh yeah.
They were,
What year were you
that's
born?
what I remember. Now I'm 1985,
Oh, okay.
so I'm a little bit older. We weren't born at the same time. I remember
Darn.
that being I was like convinced. I was like, we were probably born at the
We're the
exact same
same
time.
person.
We're the same.
No, I'm not
But
as cool
yeah.
as Haley.
Birthday twins. Yeah, you are. You 100% are. We both are. But yeah, Scorpio twins, which everyone that knows me, I very much relate to that. But yeah, so fun. Thank you,
Thank you,
Caitlin.
Haley.